In 1947, India awoke to freedom. The long struggle for independence from the British Empire had finally borne fruit. But this independence came at a cost: the partition of the Indian subcontinent into two nations, India and Pakistan. This division, drawn along religious lines, was meant to appease growing tensions between Hindus and Muslims. However, instead of peace, it unleashed chaos. Millions found themselves on the wrong side of the newly drawn borders. Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs were uprooted from their ancestral homes, forced to migrate in a mass exodus unlike any seen before. This upheaval was marred by horrific violence. Communities that had lived side by side for centuries turned on each other, fueled by fear, suspicion, and ancient prejudices. The partition was particularly devastating for the disputed region of Kashmir. Ruled by a Hindu Maharaja, but with a predominantly Muslim population, Kashmir became a flashpoint for conflict. In the months following independence, tribal militias from Pakistan, aided by elements of the Pakistani army, invaded Kashmir, seeking to wrest control from India. This invasion triggered the First Indo-Pakistani War, a bloody conflict that ended in a stalemate in 1949. Kashmir remained divided, with India controlling the majority of the region and Pakistan holding a smaller portion. The seeds of a lasting rivalry had been sown, a rivalry that would shape the destiny of both nations for decades to come. The unresolved issue of Kashmir cast a long shadow over India-Pakistan relations. Both nations claimed the region in its entirety, viewing the other's presence as an encroachment on their rightful territory. This territorial dispute became a core issue of national identity and pride, fueling a deep-seated mistrust between the two countries. Over the years, the conflict over Kashmir ignited two more wars, in 1965 and 1999. Each war exacted a heavy toll on both sides, claiming thousands of lives and pushing the two nations to the brink of a larger conflict. Beyond these full-blown wars, Kashmir remained a volatile battleground. Militant groups, often backed by Pakistan, waged a protracted insurgency against Indian rule in Kashmir. These groups, seeking independence or a merger with Pakistan, carried out attacks on Indian security forces and civilians, fueling a cycle of violence and repression. The Indian government, in turn, deployed a large military presence in Kashmir, seeking to quell the unrest and maintain control. The presence of armed forces on both sides of the line of control, the de facto border dividing the region, created a tense and volatile situation. Skirmishes, ceasefire violations, and accusations of cross-border infiltration became commonplace, keeping the cauldron of conflict simmering. As the India-Pakistan rivalry intensified, so too did the shadowy world of espionage. Both nations, recognizing the need for effective intelligence gathering and covert operations, established their own intelligence agencies. Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence, or ISI, and India's Research and Analysis Wing, known as RAW, would become key players in the unfolding drama. The ISI, formed shortly after Pakistan's independence, quickly gained a reputation for its ruthlessness and effectiveness. Tasked with safeguarding Pakistan's interests, the ISI played a pivotal role in supporting anti-India militant groups in Kashmir and beyond. The agency's covert operations extended beyond India's borders, with allegations of involvement in Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and even further afield. India's RAW, established in 1968, was initially focused on countering ISI activities. However, its mandate soon expanded to include intelligence gathering on China, Pakistan's ally, and other regional players. RAW's operations often mirrored those of its Pakistani counterpart, engaging in espionage, counterterrorism, and covert actions to safeguard India's interests. The rivalry between ISI and RAW mirrored the larger conflict between their respective nations. Both agencies were locked in a constant game of cat and mouse, seeking to outmaneuver and outwit the other. This clandestine war was fought in the shadows, with spies, double agents, and misinformation campaigns all part of the arsenal. The India-Pakistan intelligence war was not confined to traditional espionage. Both ISI and RAW became deeply involved in supporting and manipulating proxy forces to further their respective agendas. Pakistan, with its smaller conventional military, saw the use of non-state actors as a way to bleed India through 1,000 cuts. The ISI provided training, funding, and logistical support to a wide array of militant groups operating in Kashmir and other parts of India. These groups served as a low-cost, deniable force multiplier for Pakistan, allowing it to wage a proxy war against its larger neighbor. India, in turn, was accused of supporting separatist movements in Pakistan, particularly in Balochistan and Sindh. RAW's alleged involvement in East Pakistan's secession and the creation of Bangladesh in 1971 further fueled suspicions and animosity. The use of proxy forces added a dangerous dimension to the India-Pakistan conflict. It allowed both sides to inflict damage on the other without resorting to open warfare, thus reducing the risk of a full-blown conflict. However, this tactic also had the unintended consequence of empowering extremist groups and creating a climate of instability in the region. The India-Pakistan rivalry, fueled by territorial disputes, ideological clashes, and the machinations of their intelligence agencies, erupted into violence on numerous occasions. The 1971 war that led to the creation of Bangladesh stands out as a pivotal moment in this conflict. India's support for Bengali nationalists fighting for independence from Pakistan escalated into a full-blown war that saw Pakistan's defeat and dismemberment. This victory, however, did little to quell the animosity between the two nations. Kashmir continued to be a flashpoint, with regular skirmishes and accusations of cross-border infiltration. However, the conflict was no longer confined to the battlefield. Terrorist attacks became a grim hallmark of the India-Pakistan rivalry, with both countries accusing the other of harboring and supporting extremist groups. The 2001 attack on the Indian parliament, blamed on Pakistan-based militants, brought the two countries to the brink of war once again. The 2008 Mumbai attacks, a meticulously planned and executed assault on multiple targets in India's financial capital, sent shockwaves around the world. The attacks, carried out by Lashkar-e-Taiba, a Pakistan-based terrorist group, killed over 160 people and exposed the deep-rooted networks of terror that had taken root in the region. As technology advanced, so too did the tools of espionage and sabotage. The digital realm, with its anonymity and global reach, became a new battleground for the India-Pakistan intelligence war. Cyber attacks, once the domain of state-sponsored actors, became increasingly common. Both India and Pakistan were accused of using cyber attacks to target each other's critical infrastructure, government institutions, and financial systems. These attacks ranged from distributed denial of service, or DDoS, attacks aimed at crippling websites, to sophisticated intrusions designed to steal sensitive data. The use of social media for propaganda and disinformation campaigns also became a hallmark of this new age of espionage. Both countries were accused of using fake social media accounts and bots to spread misinformation, sow discord, and influence public opinion. The digital realm offered both opportunities and challenges for intelligence agencies. While it provided new avenues for espionage and sabotage, it also made it more difficult to attribute attacks and hold perpetrators accountable. The line between state-sponsored actors and non-state actors became increasingly blurred, making it harder to determine the origins and motivations behind cyber attacks. The India-Pakistan rivalry, marked by decades of mistrust, conflict, and espionage, poses a significant threat to regional and global security. The unresolved issue of Kashmir, the proliferation of nuclear weapons, and the rise of extremist groups create a volatile and unpredictable environment. Both India and Pakistan possess nuclear arsenals, adding a terrifying dimension to their rivalry. The risk of miscalculation, accident, or escalation cannot be overstated. The consequences of a nuclear exchange between the two countries would be catastrophic, not only for the subcontinent but for the entire world. Despite the challenges, there have been attempts to foster dialogue and reduce tensions between the two nations. However, these efforts have often been derailed by mistrust, domestic political considerations, and the actions of spoilers on both sides who benefit from the status quo. Finding a lasting solution to the India-Pakistan conflict requires addressing the root causes of the rivalry, the Kashmir dispute, historical grievances, and a lack of trust. It will require political will, diplomatic engagement, and a commitment to peaceful coexistence from both sides. The international community, too, has a role to play in encouraging dialogue, promoting confidence-building measures, and working towards a more stable and secure South Asia.